Okay, so you might think that pushing a Division I athlete to score more goals just requires intense pressure, right? A relentless fixation on winning. But what if the secret isn't more pressure at all? What if it's actually more joy? Let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to unpack how a Division I athlete unlocked her true potential, not by grinding harder, but by completely reigniting her love for the game. We're looking at some seriously fascinating clinical performance psychology today that proves an unstoppable mindset literally starts with intrinsic enjoyment.
I want you to picture something for a second. Have you ever watched an incredibly talented collegiate athlete just completely lose their spark? You know the exact look I'm talking about. They used to absolutely dominate the field, but suddenly they just look slow, unmotivated, and visibly frustrated out there. They start complaining about the travel, dreading practices, agonizing over minor nagging injuries. It's honestly heartbreaking to watch because you can just see they're going through the motions. The fire is just gone.
So that brings us to part one, the burnout reality, when the fire goes out. You see, when an athlete's performance tanks, coaches almost always make the exact same mistake. They just push him harder physically. But by throwing more running or more drills at the problem, we're completely ignoring the psychological engine that actually drives performance. And that engine, it's intrinsic enjoyment. It's doing it for the personal love of the sport, not for extrinsic rewards. When athletes lose touch with that personal love, their motivation just plummets and their performance absolutely shatters.
Let's make this intensely personal for a second. If I asked you right now to list the top 3 reasons you actually enjoy your sport, or even your daily job, could you do it? Like, could you name them right now without hesitating? Or are you just showing up every single day out of pure habit, or maybe just for a paycheck? Because honestly, this isn't just about athletes. It's about literally anyone operating in a high-performance environment.
Let's move to part two, the case of Sarah, a captain falling apart. To truly understand how destructive this loss of enjoyment can be, we're going to look at a clinical case study of a player named Sarah. Now, Sarah was the definition of high stakes and massive achievement. We're talking a senior forward and co-captain who had racked up huge honors, even setting multiple program history records. But at the start of her senior season, she was falling apart. She was struggling to find her form, battling these minor injuries, and she absolutely hated the extensive travel because of how it was impacting her schoolwork. And to top it all off, she displayed a totally dismal lack of buy-in for any mental skills training. Now check this out. During her baseline psychological assessments, Sarah's doubt-oriented motivational style scored a massive 6.0. Compare that to her team's average of just 4.1. So she wasn't just struggling a little bit, she was actively doubting herself in a way that far exceeded her peers. It left her feeling completely isolated. And that active doubt? Well, it bled directly into her preparation. Her initial engagement score with the team's mental skills training was a pretty dismal 14 out of 30. That's significantly lower than the team average. And why? Well, it turns out she lacks goal compatibility. She was setting practice goals that were completely out of sync with her competitive goals. For example, she desperately wanted to improve her goal scoring in the final 15 minutes of a grueling 90-minute match. But during training, she absolutely despised running and conditioning. So her daily practice was totally disconnected from the results she actually wanted on the field.
Think about how crazy that actually is. It's literally like wanting to win a competitive hot dog eating contest, but refusing to practice eating anything except kale salads. I mean, come on. If your daily habits, like only eating kale, don't match your ultimate goals, you're setting yourself up for an absolute mental breakdown. The friction between what she wanted and what she was actually willing to do was just tearing her performance apart.
Which leads us to part 3, the enjoyment-focused solution, reconnecting with the joy of the game.
Recognizing this crisis, the athletic department didn't just tell Sarah to go run more laps. Instead, they brought in a 12-week mental skills training framework that moved through 3 distinct phases: education, acquisition, and implementation. But here's a really crucial detail. Before even starting those phases, the consultant had to build absolute trust. Sarah admitted she was super pessimistic at first. So to secure her buy-in, the consultant actually had to lean on his own elite playing and coaching background to prove his soccer intelligence. Only after he did that did she actually open up to the process.
Once she bought in, the real work began. Instead of forcing her to do, generic visualization exercises, the consultant focused entirely on identifying her intrinsic sources of sport enjoyment, or ISOE. For Sarah, those unique intrinsic sources were the sheer joy of just playing the game, the psychosocial aspects of the sport, and those deep social connections with her friends and teammates. So the consultant mapped specific mental skills directly to those joys. They refined her goal setting to focus on appreciating her teammates and coaches during training, And honestly, this shifted her entire practice mentality. So, the big question, did focusing on enjoyment actually win games? You better believe it did. After making this mental shift, Sarah scored a staggering 66% of her total season points in the second half of the year alone. Over half her points. By mapping her daily habits to what she actually enjoyed, her on-field production absolutely skyrocketed.
Let's look closer at Part 4, the champion's results, the data behind the transformation.
By the end of this 12-week intervention, Sarah's transformation was absolute. Her reported use of goal setting didn't just improve a little bit, it exploded by 187.5%. Think about that. Once her daily habits finally aligned with what she actually enjoyed about the sport, setting and pursuing goals stopped feeling like a miserable chore. It just became a natural extension of her love for the game.
And it gets better. That crushing active self-doubt we saw earlier, it plummeted by nearly 39%. At the exact same time, her use of positive self-talk jumped over 55%. The data proves it unequivocally, guys. Shifting the psychological focus away from a miserable grind and toward intrinsic enjoyment was incredibly effective. Sarah herself actually beautifully summarized the whole intervention. She noted, "I more enjoyed trying hard in practices and spending time with friends on the team this season. This helped me feel better about myself when I left practice." Refining her focus to just appreciate her teammates completely changed how she felt about herself, the effort she was putting in, and her sport as a whole.
So the ultimate takeaway here for anyone operating in a high-performance environment, whether you're on a soccer pitch, sitting in a boardroom, or in a classroom, is that intrinsic enjoyment is the true foundation. It's the secret sauce that makes mental skills like goal setting and self-talk actually effective. We have to stop treating our careers or our sports like a miserable grind. If you want to perform like an elite athlete, you have to actively rediscover why you love the work in the first place.
So I want you to take a moment and really think about this. What is your primary intrinsic source of enjoyment in your own life? Like, what is the thing that brings you genuine joy outside of just the external rewards or a paycheck? If you found this explainer helpful, let me know in the comments below how you answer this crucial question. Keep finding that joy, keep aligning your habits with your goals, and I'll see you next time.